I'm David Toman, author of nootropicsexpert.com, and in this video I'm going to share with you the 13 minerals essential for the optimized brain. What they are, what they do, and how they work in your brain, the science behind them, and how much you need of each mineral every day. And by the way, this is a long video, so if you want to skip through to any particular mineral, there is a table of contents including timestamps in the description below this video. Just scroll down and you click on the timestamp, and that'll take you to the mineral that you want to listen about. The People's Home Medical Book, published in 1910, page 209, told the reader that the number one cause of acquired insanity was imperfect nutrition. In 2014, the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey reported that nearly every American was deficient in at least one, if not several, critical nutrients to maintain basic good health. The World Health Organization reports that a staggering 2 billion people, over 30% of the world's population, are anemic, primarily from an iron deficiency. So if you've been having trouble concentrating lately, it could be that you're not getting enough of the nutrients that your brain needs. Mary Kretsch, a psychologist at ARS Western Human Nutrition Center in Davis, California, conducted a 20-week study. She recruited 8 healthy men aged 27 to 47 years. From this study, Dr. Kretsch concluded we saw that a low score for volunteers' attention span corresponded with a subsequent decline in iron levels in the body. The team had the same 8 male volunteers explore the interaction of brain power and zinc. In this study, the men who slowed the most in word memory and recall also had the greatest decrease in blood levels of zinc. Other studies show that not enough boron results in short attention span or perception, poor hand-eye coordination, and impaired short and long-term memory. And with not enough molybdenum, you wouldn't even survive. So this video is all about the list of unrecognizable minerals at the end of your multivitamin label, and how each of these minerals are critical for optimal cognition, memory, and mood. Boron is an essential trace mineral and one of the unsung heroes of the optimized brain. Boron is essential for bone growth and maintenance, improves wound healing, it increases the half-life and bioavailability of estrogen, testosterone, and vitamin D. Boron also increases magnesium absorption, reduces inflammation, it boosts natural antioxidants, it protects against free radicals, and reduces the risk of some cancers. And then there's boron in your brain. Boron is involved in the formation and use of SAMe, which in turn is involved in the synthesis of acetylcholine, dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine, helping to normalize mood, moderate behavior, and elevate emotions. Insufficient boron results in less physical dexterity and speed, short attention span or perception, poor hand-eye coordination, and impaired short and long-term memory. Boron in your diet comes from fruits, leafy vegetables, nuts, legumes, and plant-derived fermented beverages like wine and beer. You can also get boron from peanuts and other nuts, raisins, and avocados. Now, chances are you're not getting enough boron in your diet. And while official boron requirements have not been set, the tolerable upper limit is 20 milligrams per day. All human studies show the beneficial effects of boron for general and cognitive health is a minimum of 3 milligrams of boron per day. Calcium is the most abundant mineral in your body. Calcium ions play a critical role as a secondary messenger in brain cells, involved in neurotransmitter release from neurons. Several enzymes require calcium ions as a cofactor. And outside of cells, calcium ions are important for maintaining the electrical potential across excitable cell membranes. As adults, we require about 1,000 milligrams of calcium per day, which we get from foods including milk, yogurt, cheese, kale, broccoli, salmon, most grains, and calcium is added to some breakfast cereals, fruit juices, soy and rice beverages, and tofu. And while most do not require a calcium supplement to maintain optimal brain health, it's important to understand how calcium works in your brain. because calcium plays a critical role in areas of your brain responsible for storing and retrieving memory. When an action potential reaches a presynaptic terminal, it activates the synaptic transmission process. The first step is opening calcium ion channels in the axon, allowing calcium ions to flow across the axon. This increase in calcium concentration causes vesicles filled with the neurotransmitter to fuse with the axon's membrane and empty their contents into the extracellular or outside space. The neurotransmitter diffuses across the synapse to receptors located on dendrites of the target cell. The neurotransmitter binds to those receptors and activates them. Now, depending on the type of receptors activated, the effect on the target cell can be to excite the target cell, inhibit it, or alter its metabolism. This entire process takes less than 1/1000th of a second. The presynaptic axon terminal then moves a new set of vesicles into position, ready for release when the next action potential arrives. This process of communication between neurons, axons, and dendrites, which has calcium at its core, is how memories are formed, and it affects alertness, concentration, cognition, and mood. Calcium channel blockers are a class of commonly used drugs to lower blood pressure. One of the most debilitating side effects of calcium channel blockers is brain damage and memory loss, and now you know why. Several nootropic supplements also interact with how calcium works in your brain. For example, vinpocetine inhibits an enzyme called PDE1 while reducing calcium levels in brain cells. This action acts as a vasodilator, which boosts blood flow in your brain. Noopept helps prevent the neurotoxic effect of too much calcium and glutamate. DHA regulates calcium oscillations, which are involved in neurotransmitter release, mitochondrial function, gene activation, oxidative stress, and brain cell development and growth, or BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Nephiracetam increases the amount of time calcium channels remain open, which enhances the glutamate signaling pathway critical for long-term potentiation and forming long-term memories. Now, if you have normal calcium levels in your body, it's best not to supplement with calcium because abnormally high levels of calcium can be toxic to cells. And for the elderly, who often supplement with calcium to prevent bone loss, abnormally high calcium levels can be a cause of memory loss and dementia. Chromium is a trace mineral considered essential for human health. Two types of chromium exist. Hexavalent chromium, or Cr6+, which is highly toxic, and trivalent chromium, which occurs in trace amounts in foods, wine, and beer. Meat and whole grains, some fruits and vegetables and spices, are relatively good sources of chromium, often providing less than 2 micrograms per serving. As a supplement, trivalent chromium is used in the form of chromium picolinate, or as GTF chromium, which is present within brewer's yeast cells as glucose-tolerant factor, or GTF. Studies have shown that chromium picolinate increases your body's sensitivity to insulin and helps cells extract glucose from your blood. Once in your cells, the glucose is used for energy. Chromium picolinate has been found to improve learning, recall, and memory in older adults at risk for neurodegeneration. A Duke University study found that chromium picolinate may help reduce atypical depression symptoms. Atypical depression includes mood swings, carbohydrate cravings, weight gain, rejection sensitivity, and lethargy. 15 depressed patients received 600 micrograms of chromium picolinate daily or a placebo for 8 weeks. Those using chromium picolinate experienced significantly less mood swings, fatigue, and weight gain perception. Another study found that trivalent chromium combined with diphenylalanine activates AMPK. Adenosine monophosphate kinase, or AMPK, is a sensor of cellular energy status, monitoring ATP levels to maintain metabolic homeostasis. When activated, AMPK activates glycolysis and fatty acid oxidation to boost ATP production. AMPK regulates almost all aspects of cellular function, including autophagy and maintenance of mitochondrial homeostasis, cell polarity, and cell growth and proliferation. Chromium increases insulin sensitivity, which boosts the production of serotonin in your brain, reducing depression in those with low-grade persistent depression. Recommended daily intake, according to the US FDA, is 35 micrograms daily for chromium. Typical GTF chromium supplementation, however, is up to 1,000 micrograms split into 2 doses daily. Copper is an essential trace mineral and the third most abundant mineral in your body. It is needed to produce hemoglobin and red blood cells, and for the proper utilization of iron and oxygen within your blood. Copper is a required cofactor in various copper-containing enzymes that control neurotransmitters such as dopamine. It participates in the development of new blood vessels, the creation of myelin, and endorphin recycling. Neurons and glial cells in your brain need copper for basic respiration. And the antioxidant enzymes cytochrome C oxidase and superoxide dismutase. Copper modulates neuron activity and is essential in the normal development of synapses. Copper acts as a catalyst in the reduction of oxygen to water, which is the chemical reaction that takes place during ATP synthesis. Copper is required so your body and brain can use antioxidants like vitamin C, ascorbic oxidase, superoxide dismutase, and tyrosinase, needed for preventing free radical damage in your brain. Disruption of copper oxidation in the brain has been linked to disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Wilson's disease, and ALS. Your body and brain require a constant supply of copper because it cannot store it, which means you need to consume copper-rich foods such as beef and lamb liver, oysters, nuts, cocoa, black pepper, sunflower seeds, wild-caught fish, beans, some whole grains, avocados, and green olives. But copper deficiency is more prevalent than you'd expect. Not eating enough copper-rich foods, digestive disorders like Crohn's disease, and high intakes of iron and zinc supplements all contribute to copper deficiency. Signs of copper deficiency include fatigue, trouble concentrating, and poor mood. Recommended daily dosage for copper is 900 to 1,300 micrograms per day. Iodine is an essential trace mineral that combines with the amino acid tyrosine to form thyroid hormones T4 and T3. T4 contains 4 iodine atoms and T3 contains 3 iodine atoms. Thyroid hormone receptors in your brain help regulate the production of all important neurotransmitters. Not enough iodine results in too little T3 and T4 in your body. Symptoms of inadequate thyroid hormones, or hypothyroidism, includes insomnia, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, depression, dry skin and hair, cold sensitivity, frequent and heavy periods for women, and joint and muscle pain. Iodine is also required for a healthy immune system. Iodine is antibacterial, antiparasitic, antiviral, and has anti-cancer properties. Iodine is a powerful method for removing heavy metals and halides like fluoride, chlorine, and bromine from your system. These chemicals compete for the same thyroid receptors in cells as used by thyroid hormones. Removing these toxins will help thyroid hormones do their job of gene expression and metabolism. Low T3 levels result in reduced levels of serotonin in your brain. If you don't respond to SSRIs for depression, it could be due to a thyroid hormone imbalance. Thyroid hormones affect enzymes responsible for the synthesis and degradation of GABA, levels of glutamate in GABA, GABA release and reuptake, and GABA A receptor expression and function. GABA is your brain's natural Valium. GABA can help turn off stress after you get upset, or even prevent a stress response in the first place. Low iodine results in low levels of thyroid hormones affecting GABA, which can lead to depression or anxiety. Thyroid hormones play a role in dopamine release in your brain. One study showed that an imbalance between thyroid hormones and dopamine could be responsible for restless leg syndrome. Thyrotrophic releasing hormone, or TRH, increases acetylcholine synthesis. One study showed that those with hypothyroidism had significantly decreased acetylcholine in the hippocampus, and that administration of T4 normalized acetylcholine levels. The bottom line is not enough iodine in your diet negatively affects neurotransmitters in your brain and can result in depression, brain fog, anxiety, learning and memory problems, and ultimately lead to things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. The most abundant source of iodine in our diet comes from seafood like kelp, saltwater fish, seal meat, whale meat, oysters, mussels, and lobster. Recommended iodine dosage is very difficult because everybody needs different amounts based on your body's ability to use the iodine and the level of exposure you have to daily toxins like fluoride, chlorine, and other halides. Natural health practitioners once thought that 25 milligrams of iodine per day was good for maintenance. But recent information on the exposure we have daily to toxic load from bromines, fluorides, and chromium bombarding our system may require higher doses. Some natural health doctors recommend a minimum of 50 milligrams of iodine per day. But more recent research that I've found, dosage should be more like 1 milligram a day. It really depends on what your body needs. So for full dosage instructions, including supporting supplements to include and to make iodine work better, see my dosage recommendations for iodine in my iodine video here on this channel or in my iodine review on Nootropics Expert. Iron is an essential mineral for brain function because of its role in oxidative metabolism and because it is a cofactor in the synthesis of neurotransmitters and myelin. Iron is essential for the synthesis of serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. It is a cofactor for ribonucleotide reductase, which is used to synthesize DNA. And iron is essential for several electron transfer reactions related to lipid metabolism and brain energy metabolism. Iron is also involved in the activity of monoamine oxidase, which is critical for regulating dopamine. Research has shown that drops in iron levels in the brain results in a reduction of dopamine D1 and D2 receptors, which has a direct negative effect on learning and memory. Serotonin transporter density decreases along with drops in iron, along with decreased uptake of norepinephrine, resulting in poor attention, concentration, and depression. Studies show that iron-deficient adolescents display symptoms of ADD. Iron deficiency is one of the most common nutritional deficiencies in the world, and including here in the USA. This problem is especially relevant in newborns because the result is impaired behavior in learning, lower IQ, and developmental delays, and it is irreversible. Children that are iron deficient because of a poor diet score poorly in mathematics and language tests. A study at UCLA looked to see if variations in iron levels in normal, healthy kids made a difference. It turns out it mattered a lot. The UCLA team measured blood serum transferrin levels, or iron, in adolescents, and then performed brain scans when these teens reached their early 20s. The study found a strong correlation between myelin function and integrity in young adults who followed an iron-poor diet in their teens, resulting in poor cognition well into adulthood. In adults, symptoms of iron deficiency are anxiety, brain fog, depression, fatigue, irritability, restless legs, poor concentration, and insomnia. If you suspect you are iron deficient, get a full iron panel done, including hemoglobin, MCV, ferritin, total iron binding capacity, serum iron, and transferrin saturation. Meat and seafood are the best sources of heme iron, which is more absorbable. Non-heme iron, which is less absorbable, is found in leafy greens, beans, and nuts. It is important you be certain of an iron deficiency before you supplement with iron, because excess iron can lead to cirrhosis of the liver, joint and hormone problems. Symptoms of high iron include fatigue, joint pain, low libido, and a higher risk of diabetes. Now, the recommended daily allowance, or RDA, for iron is, for men, 8 milligrams, for women, 18 milligrams, lactating women, 10 milligrams, pregnant women, 27 milligrams, children 4 to 8 years, 10 milligrams, and children 9 to 18 years, 8 milligrams. Magnesium is the fourth most abundant mineral in your body and critical for optimal cognitive health. It is a cofactor in more than 600 enzymatic reactions in your body. Magnesium assists in converting food into a usable form to produce adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, the primary fuel source made in your mitochondria. Magnesium is needed for the synthesis of RNA and DNA. It regulates the activity in neuron ion channels. These channels are like tiny electrical switches, governing the flow of neurotransmitters within neurons. Magnesium also regulates brain synaptic plasticity, which is critical for learning and memory. Magnesium in our diet comes from foods like green leafy vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, whole grains, poultry, beef, and salmon. Tap, mineral, and bottled water also used to be good sources of magnesium, but it varies by brand, source, and if the magnesium has been filtered out during processing. Many of us in Western society are living with a magnesium deficiency and not even aware that we are lacking this important mineral. Raising brain magnesium levels has been proven to restore neuroplasticity and improve cognitive function. Most neurohackers report an increased level of focus, energy, memory, and cognitive ability when supplementing with magnesium. You should also experience an improved quality of sleep and have an overall improvement in mood. The recommended magnesium dosage in most common forms is 400 milligrams a day. But the problem is most magnesium supplements don't work well as a nootropic because they don't cross the blood-brain barrier. However, a new magnesium supplement called magnesium L-threonate easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. This form of magnesium was patented and now produced by Science. Several supplement companies sell magnesium with this branded form. At the very least, you should be using a chelated form of magnesium. Manganese is an essential trace mineral required for bone formation, fat and carbohydrate metabolism, blood sugar regulation, and calcium absorption. Manganese is a required cofactor for several enzymes necessary for neuron and glial cell function in your brain, and enzymes involved in neurotransmitter synthesis and metabolism. And manganese is needed in the formation of astrocytes. These glial cells help form the endothelial cells in your blood-brain barrier, maintain ion balance, and help repair the brain and spinal cord following traumatic brain injury. Manganese deficiency is uncommon, but not enough of this essential trace mineral can result in birth defects, impaired fertility, bone malformation, weakness, lower IQ, and enhanced susceptibility to seizures. On the other hand, too much manganese can result in a condition called manganism, which looks and acts like Parkinson's disease. You get most of the manganese you need every day from eating seafood, seeds, chocolate, tea, leafy greens, spices, soybeans, pineapple, blueberries, and acai. For example, a cup of tea has 0.4 to 1.3 milligrams of manganese. The dietary intake of manganese is estimated to be 0.9 to 10 milligrams per day, with safe and adequate dietary intake to be 2.3 milligrams per day for men and 1.8 milligrams per day for women. Manganese is all around us, from alloys and steel used in manufacturing, paints, adhesives, ceramics, and even well water. And if you are in mining or a welder, you're even in more danger of manganese toxicity. So my nootropics expert recommendation is not to use a separate manganese supplement. Several other nootropics can provide an energy boost that some say you can get from using manganese. Excess manganese will deplete dopamine in your brain. The manganese in most multivitamin mineral supplements should keep you below toxicity range, but please read the labels to be safe. Supplements that can counteract manganese toxicity include iron, taurine, vitamin E, magnesium, L-tyrosine, melatonin, quercetin, acai, lemon balm, milk thistle, and lycopene. Molybdenum is an essential mineral required as a cofactor in certain critical enzymes in your body and brain. Sulfite oxidase is required for your body to metabolize sulfur-containing amino acids, cysteine and methionine from foods. A rare but fatal disease caused by a lack of this cofactor results in neurological disorders, mental retardation, degradation of the brain, and even death. Xanthine oxyreductase is required for purine metabolism. Purines come from foods and are components of DNA, RNA, ATP, CEMP, and NADH and coenzyme A. And then there's aldehyde oxidase. It catalyzes the conversion of aldehydes, which are found in everything from alcohol to household toxins to cigarette toxins into harmless acid and hydrogen peroxide to be expelled by your kidneys. And mitochondrial aminodoxine reductase acts together with the electron transport proteins NADH, cytochrome B reductase, and cytochrome B5. Scientists are still trying to figure out what this enzyme does, but so far it appears to be involved in detoxification and mutations on the DNA level. Now you get molybdenum from foods like legumes, grains, dairy, and meat. Phytic acids found in plants block the absorption of molybdenum during digestion. Average intake for most people seems to be from 76 to 109 micrograms per day from food. The tolerable upper limit seems to be about 2 milligrams per day. The recommended daily allowance, or the RDA, for molybdenum is 75 micrograms per day for adults. Phosphorus is the second most abundant mineral in your body. It is present in every cell and essential for life. In your body, phosphorus combines with oxygen to form phosphate. Phosphate ions, or inorganic phosphate, are involved in hundreds of cellular activities in DNA, RNA, ATP, and phospholipids. The addition and removal of phosphate from proteins in all of your cells is at the heart of regulating metabolic processes. Phosphorylation and dephosphorylation is how energy is stored and released in living systems. Cell mitochondria use adenosine triphosphate for this. Phosphorus deficiency is not very common because it is in most food and added to many packaged foods. Phosphorus as phosphate is easily absorbed in your small intestine. Studies show 50 to 90% of dietary phosphate is taken up by your body. You'll absorb more phosphorus if you eat a high-protein diet. A low-protein diet puts you at greater risk for deficiency. Older women are more often at risk of phosphorus deficiency because we're using high-dose calcium supplements, which inhibits absorption of other minerals, including phosphorus. The cognitive symptoms of phosphorus deficiency include anxiety and trouble concentrating, because your brain is lacking in the phosphorus needed to make ATP, neurotransmitters, and the energy required for brain cell signaling. Recommended daily allowance for phosphorus is 700 milligrams per day. Children aged 9 to 18 require higher doses at 1,250 milligrams per day. Now, you have very little risk of overdosing on phosphorus from your diet alone because your kidneys regulate levels in your body. But taking very high doses of phosphorus daily impairs the synthesis of the vitamin D which your body and brain requires. And it disrupts calcium absorption. So don't overdose phosphorus. Potassium is an essential mineral for life and the most abundant cation, or positively charged ion, in your body. 90% of the potassium in your body is within your cells, with the remaining 2% in the extracellular or outside space, critical for maintaining the voltage difference inside and outside of cells. The enzyme that maintains this voltage difference does it by pumping potassium into a cell while pumping sodium out of a cell. The ATP part of the equation means that the enzyme uses energy from ATP to pump sodium out of the cell in exchange for potassium. This exchange of sodium and potassium is known as a sodium-potassium pump. and is necessary for nerve impulse transmission, muscle contraction, and heart function to work properly. This electrical event within cells is called the action potential. Neurons communicate with each other via action potentials. At the junction between two neurons, or the synapses, an action potential causes the first neuron to release a neurotransmitter, which can either excite or inhibit the next neuron from firing its own action potential. The balance of hundreds of excitatory and inhibitory inputs to a neuron determines whether an action potential will result. And when you have a deficiency of potassium to participate in these action potentials, bad things happen. In your brain, potassium deficiency often results in brain fog, fatigue, and poor mood. A 2008 study showed that a high potassium diet helped to relieve depression. Potassium channels act as a facilitator in your brain's use of serotonin. Not enough potassium can result in feelings of guilt, helplessness, hopelessness, low self-esteem, and even suicide, because your brain is not able to use serotonin to improve mood. A diet with more processed food will upset your sodium-potassium balance, because processed foods are often packed with high levels of sodium. Now, food high in potassium includes bananas, dried apricots, dates, avocados, cantaloupe, dark leaf vegetables, beans, mushrooms, dairy, fish, and nuts. Most of the potassium you get from food is absorbed through your intestines. Your kidneys do their best to keep your potassium levels in balance. Recommended daily allowance for potassium is 4.7 grams per day. Now, the average adult gets 2.2 to 3.3 grams of potassium per day from food. The symptoms of potassium deficiency include cramps, confusion, depression, fatigue, irritability, and muscle weakness. Selenium is a trace mineral essential for various aspects of your health. Its main method of action is its incorporation into selenoproteins, such as the amino acid selenocysteine. Now, you have 25 selenoprotein genes in your genome, which mostly work as antioxidant enzymes, protecting your cells, including brain cells, from the inside. Selenium intake has recently been shown to have anti-aging benefits. A study in France looked at 200 people over the age of 69. The researchers examined the correlation between fatty acids and the number of fish meals per week. The study found that those with higher fish consumption had higher selenium levels and the highest levels of DHA and EPA, or the omega-3s, which translated into the best cognitive function. Selenium is critical for healthy thyroid function. Selenium reduces thyroid peroxidase and lowers levels of thyroglobulin antibody, reducing the risk of developing Hashimoto's or Graves' disease. Now, your thyroid affects every cell in your body and brain through the hormones T4 and T3. Within your brain, T4 is converted to T3 by selenium, which then affects gene expression, controlling metabolism within cells, and activates the catecholamines dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. Research has found that selenoproteins are involved in motor performance, or movement, muscle movement, coordination, memory, cognition, and other brain signaling pathways. Selenium is important for the development and functioning of GABA. Dopamine pathways are dependent on selenium, and acetylcholine transmission needs selenium. Low selenium levels are associated with anxiety, confusion, depression, and hostility. One study conducted at University College in Wales found that 100 micrograms of selenium taken daily for 5 weeks elevated mood and it decreased anxiety. But like most nootropic supplements, there is no benefit to overdoing it with selenium. More is not better. In fact, too much selenium has been shown to promote diabetes and increase the risk of certain types of cancer. Now, you get some selenium from lamb, fish, poultry, cereal, and eggs. Just 2 Brazil nuts will supply 100 micrograms of selenium. The recommended daily dose if you are going to supplement with selenium is up to 250 micrograms per day. Long term, no more than 125 micrograms per day. So check your multivitamin or mineral supplement because it may already be supplying the selenium that you need. Zinc is an essential trace mineral required for optimal brain health and function. Zinc is required for the catalytic activity of around 100 enzymes. Zinc is integral to the synthesis of proteins, the regulation of signaling cascades, gene transcription, and neurotransmitter transport. It's involved in DNA repair and synthesis and methylation. Zinc inhibits NMDA receptors, which reduces glutamate toxicity. And zinc modulates the activity of proteins such as receptors and enzymes that are involved in the regulation of macromolecules, the regulation of signaling cascades and gene transcription and transport processes. Low zinc levels are found in depression, and the lower the level, the more severe the depression. Zinc increases serotonin uptake in select brain regions, which increases the efficacy of antidepressants. And it reduces depression because it increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Zinc is required for memory formation. Lack of adequate zinc impairs signaling of BDNF, which is required for long-term potentiation to form memories. Zinc inhibits the production of inflammatory cytokines, and zinc protects against cognitive decline due to toxic copper levels. Zinc deficiency is common around the world, including in the USA. This deficiency occurs because we don't eat enough foods that contain zinc. Your body needs about 10 to 20 milligrams of zinc per day because it can't store zinc. You get zinc from eating seafood like oysters or lobster. Beef, pork, and chicken provide smaller amounts of zinc per serving, and it's also present in eggs, yogurt, cheese, and some nuts. But not only don't most of us eat enough zinc-containing food, many plants contain phytates which block the absorption of zinc in your body. So vegetarians are particularly vulnerable to zinc deficiency. The recommended daily dosage of zinc is 30 milligrams, balanced with 2 milligrams of copper. The minerals so critical for optimal brain function come from the earth, literally. And herein lies the problem when supplementing with minerals. Our body and brain cannot use ground-up rock. And yet, that's what you'll find in most brand-name multivitamins, found on supermarket and in big box retail store shelves. Ideally, we get all the vitamins and minerals we need from food. And those nutrients come from plants in forms our body can use. Plants have already converted minerals into an organic form attached to a peptide. Once digested, the minerals bind to amino acid carriers for transport throughout your body and brain. This binding process is called chelation. By binding the two, the amino acid can transport the mineral across your intestinal lining into your bloodstream, and then release the mineral to do its designated job. Now, you need the same form of minerals in your multivitamin and mineral supplement as found in plants for it to be effective, not ground-up rock. Now, I've written a post on how to select the best multivitamin for brain function, and you'll find that over on Nootropics Expert, and I'll provide a link to it below this video. I think you'll find it very informative and helpful. And the multivitamin that I highly recommend and that I've been using for the last 3 years is the Performance Lab Nutrigenesis Multi for men, and my wife uses the one for women. It contains the same types of minerals that's normally found in food, but that we don't get enough every day from our diet alone. It's the best multi I've ever used. Your brain requires each of the 13 minerals talked about in this video for optimal cognition, memory, and mood. Some you will get from a healthy diet, preferably with organic fruit and vegetables and grass-fed meat. The remainder must be supplied by supplementing with the right multivitamin mineral supplement every day. You'll feel better, and your nootropic stack has a more likely chance of providing the benefits you are looking for. And that's my report on minerals. If you want to see links to the studies I talked about, go to nootropicsexpert.com and search for 13 minerals. Or click on the link below this video. There you'll find a full transcript of this video, and you'll find dozens of articles on all the well-known nootropics over on Nootropics Expert. Now, if you have any questions or you want to share your experience using minerals or multivitamins, please use the comment section below this video. or at the bottom of my 13 Minerals article over on Nootropics Expert. I try my best to respond to comments and questions as quickly as I can. And if you haven't already, download your free copy of Secrets of the Optimized Brain. It's nearly 100 pages and contains details on 92 of the most popular nootropics used today. And consider getting a copy of my book, Head First, The Complete Guide to Healing and Optimizing Your Brain with Nootropic Supplements. For only $37, Head First is nearly 600 pages and the best guide on this planet for fixing and optimizing your brain. And if you could use some personal help with choosing the right nootropics or figuring out how to deal with your own brain health issues, consider booking a personal consultation with me. You'll find a link to my calendar below this video. And if you want to see more videos on all the best nootropics used today, subscribe to this channel before you leave. I'll be putting up new videos on nootropics and optimizing your brain every week. I'm David Toman, author of Nootropics Expert.